and we're going to get this one kicked off. I know we have a bunch more people that are going to come in. I'm particularly thrilled to have Vicki working with me on all kinds of levels, but we'll get into that later. This particular subject is very close to my heart as well as many others, and know I talk a lot about the whole idea of fraud and using the codes properly. Again, this is my official now. This is the Dental Codology has our certification as a PACE AGD provider. And that might lead some of you on the call already to wonder, where is your certificate for last month? Well, as I mentioned earlier, just a couple of seconds ago, is that I want to make sure that I have all my paperwork and all my ducks in the row properly. And so it took me a little bit while trying to get everything ready for Chicago Midwinter to get the certificates done. So you will get your certificate tonight, tomorrow. From last month, as well as try to turn around the one from this month. Now, here we go. This is the way we manage the CE for this. In order for it to qualify, we have to have a course description, and you need to put your name, and I need your full name, first and last name, in the chat box, okay? Putting in the chat box shows that you are actually here. And what Tracy is helping me do is take those out of the chat box and mark the list so I can get them turned around to you more quickly. Because, see, I got it done already. I got the next one. Tonight's is done and ready for you as soon as we finish up our call. So,
Patty, do I also need to keep track of that in the chat box? Who's attended?
No, you don't have to. No, Tracy's got a list. I sent her a spreadsheet, so she's going to fix that up for us. So as we've done before, and I think it's really important, is to identify who's here. And so I'm just kind of going to go down the list and just say hi, and I want to hear your microphone, I want to hear from you. So Anne-Marie Palma, are you here yet? Not yet? Okay, how about Barbara Breitrick, are you here yet?
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, Barbara, great to see you. Krista, I think I saw you call in. Krista?
Hi, having trouble unmuting. Hello, how are you?
Great, glad to have you. Our beautiful Debbie Z, I think I saw you there.
I'm here. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody.
Happy Valentine's Day, Deb. How about Diana? Are you here yet, Diana? Not yet? Okay, Beth Deegan? Not yet. Jan Palmer? I know Jan said she might be late. She was coming from another meeting, but we're going to hope she jumps in because Jan does a real lot, and she is our Medicare expert in resident, and so she probably has some other thoughts and things that she sees that we could learn from. Karen Siebert. Karen? Not yet. Kathy Fowler? No. Angela Craig?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh. We're picking up somebody's cross voice. Whoever just got on.
Yes, I'm here.
Who was that, you, Kathy?
Yes.
Great, thank you.
Angela Craig.
Oh, Angela. Hi, Angela. Great to hear from you. Annette.
Hi. How are you?
Hello. Cheryl, I saw you there. How is sunny Hawaii?
Oh, real nice. Aloha.
Oh, that's great. Great to have you here again. Connie, I saw you come in.
I'm here. Hi, everyone.
Great to always have you, Connie. Desiree. Not yet. But Diane Dieterman. The next person is a very special guest. Frank, are you here?
Yes, I am.
There
Good
we
to
go.
talk to you
I'm going to
again.
have you. We're going to have you talk a little bit more later when we introduce you a little bit more formally. Is Todd also with you?
Todd should be on board.
Todd should be on too. Okay, great. Jean Wintz. Jean? Not yet. Catherine? I think I saw you, Catherine. Oh, I know Catherine's here because I saw her name in the chat box. Kelly, welcome, Kelly. Great to have you. I know this is your first time. I appreciate it. Kim? I think Kim's listening.
I'm here, Patty.
There you are. I knew you're on the phone. Thanks. Thanks for being here. Kimberly. Kimberly Goyer? Not yet. Lisa Graziana? Lisa, you here?
I'm here. Hi, everyone.
Tell everybody about your textbook today that you got.
Oh my gosh, I was so excited. We're using a new edition or Perio book, and I was teaching Perio today, and I was kind of skimming through it. We're playing catch up. We've had a ton of snow days and ice days. Anyway, I'm skimming through it, and guess what I found in the very end of the book in the insurance coding was the gingivitis code. I was so excited because it was not in the last edition, which we used up until this January, and I found out the new edition came out, so I immediately got it for my students, and I was so excited, jumping up and down. My students thought I was a nutcase.
So there we go. This would be for any of you that have not been on calls before. This is the level of geekdom that you are now with. We get excited when a code is properly listed in a textbook. So anyway, thanks, Lisa. Lucy, are you here?
Yep, I'm here. Hello.
Terrific. Natalie, I think I saw you. Say hi, Natalie.
Hi, everyone.
Perfect.
Hi, everyone.
Paige, I think I saw you sneak in too.
Yes, I did. I'm here.
Great to have you. How are things going out in Washington?
Today we had the hearing at our state capitol regarding dental therapy, which we support, and the dental assistant bill, where everybody I hope has heard that it was proposed that periodontal probing, ultrasonic debridement, and scaling be allowed to assistants with one-time training. ADHA was there, I heard too. So I'm hoping the testimony went well and that this does not come out of committee.
Yeah, it's very interesting. If you want more information on what's going on in Washington, please let us know. We're all for. I think it's really interesting because the juxtaposition of having Natalie say hi before. Natalie is the past president of the American Dental Assistants Association, and we're very much for dental assistants that are qualified, educated, just the way we are for dental hygienists that are qualified and educated for the work that they do. But when we have legislation that's going to take people that are not and have a single course, and now all of a sudden we're going to give them all these tasks and duties, it's a scary proposition. So thanks, Paige. Thanks. Pat Pine, are you here? Nope, not yet. Patty Beeson's not going to be here yet tonight. So Sandra Berger. Sandra? Not yet. I want to thank her because she's the one that, we get our AGD certification. Susie Brzezinski, you here? Susie? She's coming from work too, so hopefully she'll make it. How about Kimberly, the other Kimberly?
Hi there. Hello.
Hello. Christine Berry. Christine, not yet. Liz? No. Michelle Gross-Panito? Not yet. She may come in later because she's joined our coding meetings. Are you here? Great. Terrific. Glad you're here. You've been such a help on our other meetings, so appreciate your participation. Nicole? Fortune? Not yet. Pam, I think I saw you, Pam.
Hi, Patty. How are you?
There are you. Fantastic. See, what we're doing is we're testing everybody's microphone this way. How about Patricia Korecki?
I'm here.
By the way, Patricia, do you go by Patricia or do you go by Patty or Pat or another nickname?
I go by Patty.
Oh, I or a Y?
Y.
Okay. Seems to be a popular name. So, Patty, welcome. Rebecca Van Horn.
Everybody signs in.
What?
Make sure everybody signs in.
Yeah, I will. I'll remind him again, Sandra. Danny. Rebecca? Not yet. Shauna? How about Tammy? How about Michelle Barrios, who just said she just snuck in your Michelle? Say hi, Michelle.
I'm here.
There you are. Thank you. Tina? So, Vicki, I hope you're here.
I'm here.
There we go. Wonderful Linda Jorgensen. How you doing?
Hey there.
There she
I'm fine.
is.
How are you all?
We're good. We're good. Tracy, again, Tracy is helping out a lot by helping me manage the CE. Say hi, Tracy.
Hello.
There we are. Jill, are you here yet? I heard Jill and the Beyond the implant group had a wonderful CE. So, and we're going to finally do a special welcome to Susan Hubbard. So, Suzanne, we had our time getting you into this today, but we made it, right? I think that's right.
Yes, we did. Thank you so much.
By the way, as something that just in case it ever happens, what happened with Suzanne? She for some reason she couldn't open the e-bite. So if that happens, anytime, just contact me like she did. We figured out we did a workaround. So I am again excited about all that we're doing at Chicago Midwinter Meeting next week, including some new visuals, and this is one of them, and it's about our insiders. You're all here because you are an insider. An insider is someone who has chosen to be a member. Now, some of you have not renewed your membership yet, and we'd love to have you for for another year. We're just getting all our pieces and parts and the technology into place. But one of the things I want to let you know is, if you think about it, is we do these masterminds every single month. So that's like 12 hours of free CE just to start. In addition, you can be in the consortium, and that I'll talk about that in a second. And you get a 40% discount on all the dental codology products. And most especially exciting is our insurance navigator method that will be going live tonight, she says with hope in her voice. I do want to announce our next program, our next mastermind is on Tuesday, the 19th of March. It will be at 8 p.m. Central. So I know that's a little late for our East Coast people, but we got to give our West Coast people. Because Cheryl, what time is it for you in Hawaii? Teresa?
Oh, it's about 3:12.
Cheryl? Oh, I'm sorry.
It's about 3:12.
Yeah, you were on the thing. Cheryl, what time is it for you in Hawaii?
About 3:12 in the afternoon.
Hello, that's what I wanted to point out, guys. So even though I know it's late for our East Coast people, we do need to. We did choose when we first got started with these that we will have these on a Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, and we'll have them at either 6, 7, or 8. And all times are listed in Central because I can't figure anything out. But Jamie Collins, one of our favorite members, insiders, is going to talk to us. So we're going to talk about vaping. And here's the thing about vaping. We have a code for helping people to stop the vaping habit. Well, we hopefully by that time might. Why? Because we submit our consortium submitted a new code. We'll talk more about that next time. Next Friday, the week from this Friday, we have our second annual Dental Codology Insider Meetup Breakfast at Chicago Midwinter Meeting. I'm really excited because we have that at the Marriott Marquis, which is the hotel that's basically attached to McCormick Place now. And they changed our room so we're even closer to the walkway over to the exhibit hall. So we have it at 7 to 9 a.m. You've all gotten your invitation. If you can't make it because you're not going to be there, completely understand. But anytime when I send out evites, it does help if people do reply. If you can't make it, I understand, but it just helps, especially with something like this where it's numbers. What we're going to be rolling out is how you become a coding superhero. What's a coding superhero? Somebody that really understands it. As you know, the name dental codology comes from I made it up, and it is the deep study of codes. Study them to really understand them so that we can use them properly. All of you have because you've already joined, that's why you already have made a commitment. But there's so much we all can learn, which is why something I've been working on, and it's really been a team, is Dental Codology Insurance Navigator Method, which is online certification courses. We will have 9 one-hour CE courses that will be rolled out over the period of this year. The first 2 will be online this week, and they're self-paced. They are specific to learning about insurance and coding, but the thing that makes it different than anything else that's out there is it's geared for clinicians and business professionals, particularly with the emphasis on clinicians. Because as you know, I'm not really one of those people that, I love codes, I love numbers. No, what I love is to help move our healthcare system forward so that we can meet we call my 3 pillars of the dental codology method, which is that we can have a world with no oral cancer, meet the 2020 goal of the World Federation of Dentistry to have a caries-free world, and to cure, not just manage, periodontal disease. And the way we're going to get to these goals is by thinking significantly different and having metrics to measure our outcomes. There's a lot more to it than that, but that gives you a little bit idea. The thing is as an insider, you get 40% discount on all of those courses. Also, we will have a booth at the Chicago Midwinter Meeting. Dental Codology will have a table at PureProc's booth at 1226. The people that will be there all the time at the table during the meeting are Sandy Rago and Vicky. Again, Miss Vicky will be there. Patty Beeson and I will be flitting in and out. Although on Thursday and Friday, if you're there between 11:30 and 12:30, we're going to be doing book signings of the CDT Shifts book. And that's the one that includes the new perio protocols and perio classifications. The first 20 each day, we're going to give away free. So that's what's going on. Also, very significant to what we're doing is the code maintenance committee, responsible for changing the codes, is meeting on March 14th and 15th at ADA. Now, many of you that are on this call also have chosen, and it is a choice, for you to be on our Dental Codology Consortium. Our consortium is the group that meets on a regular basis to submit codes, to work on codes, to talk about getting on that committee and all kinds of other things. Where push is coming to shove, because there's 146 submissions that will be heard at that meeting. We try to review them all in advance together. I had to change the meeting from this past Sunday, but there is one for next Sunday, this Sunday, the 17th at 7 o'clock. If you want to join us, just let me know and I will put you on the list and you can join us and participate in our discussion. So, let's get to what we're here for tonight. Now, in case you didn't hear it before, you've just signed in. If you just got on, if you want to get continuing education credit for tonight, put your name in the chat box, first and last name. Thing is that's the way a lot of us feel about the whole coding world, particularly as clinicians. I don't want to do it. I don't like it. I didn't go to hygiene school. I don't think that's the ones that are on this call necessarily, but that is the general thing. And we like to make the insurance carriers or third-party carriers the bad guys. They are not the bad guys. They're not necessarily the good guys, but they are clear on what their agenda is, and they understand their contracts much more than we ever do. Oh, I see Jan Palmer's here. Hey, Jan. So if you don't know already, I have a license to write about codes as well as to speak about codes. And one of the things I'm going to encourage all of you to do on a regular basis, if you're listening or reading about or looking or hearing a speaker or whatever, that somebody's telling you about codes, look for the license. Because even though it's not by negative intent, because I like to be Pollyanna and see everything in the world as positive, that there's a lot of misinformation that's given from the podium, that's in articles, certainly that's on Facebook feeds. So look for the license. Does that mean I know absolutely everything? No, but one of the things I do know is where to find the answers. Where to find the answers. So I encourage you, look for the license. And if people are saying something, it's like, yeah, do you carry a license? What kind of license do you carry? Because when it comes to insurance fraud, whether it's by ignorance or accident, or my favorite thing, we always did it this way, it still can be fraud. Whether or not someone gets caught does not make it more or less fraudulent. And when I have people tell me, well, we've done it this way and nobody's ever said anything, or the carrier said to do this way, well, guess what? There's a lot of murderers and there's a lot of robbers that never got caught. It doesn't mean they didn't murder and they didn't rob. And as Vicky's going to share with you, that there are now technology is moving forward to a lot of things that might have slid by before are not going to be able to slide by anymore. And that's a good thing because, again, there's some amazingly high numbers. that are involved with the fraud, waste, and abuse in our healthcare system. These are just some of the things that we get asked to do, don't realize we're doing, and that's for, billing for services not rendered. I think that one's, well, that's kind of an easy one, but how about this one? Not billing for services rendered. That could be problematic too. Not even knowing what the codes are. Well, the business person does that. I don't do that. Alternating codes, that whole alternating codes to increase our payment is a problem. There is the coding only if there's coverage. That's also inappropriate. Codes have two purposes. One is for third-party reimbursement, and the second is as the standard code set for electronic health records. Now, that's not a patty-to-Ganji statement. That's what's in the 2001 HIPAA legislation. That the CDT is recognized as the standard code set for electronic health records. Reason I bring that up is because even if you do work with no third-party reimbursement, you need to use accurate coding in your electronic health records. The next one, the lower left there, the underdiagnosis, overdiagnosis, or what I see more often is no diagnosis at all. Because when people ask me, well, how should we code that? The first thing I'm going to ask them is, what's the diagnosis? And most often I'll hear things like, oh, it's a prophy, it's a work plating, it's a crown. No, those are treatment. What's the diagnosis? Underdiagnosis, overdiagnosis, no diagnosis, all of those are problematic. And I want to talk about a little bit before I hand things over to Vicki about the remapping. What remapping is all about to increase payment. Remapping is what most of us know as down coding. And that's changing a code from a higher level to a lower level, or they really are a 4346 or a 4910, and we put them down as a 1110. Why? Because we'll get payment. That's remapping. The thing is, with changing the codes or down coding that way, a dental office and a dental professional cannot, but a carrier can. What? That's not fair. But I always thought about it. How come carriers can and we can't? Well, here's the reason why. A carrier can downcode or remap because they're doing it based on a policy and on money. When we downcode or remap, we are saying we did something differently than what we actually did. Therein is the fraud. If we are purposely changing a code to increase payment, there is the fraud. So, with that as my introduction, I'm going to hand things off to Vicki. And Vicki, tell them who you are and what you're doing, and of course, our special guests that we also have here.
Oh, my pleasure, Patty. First of all, I really want to thank everyone for taking time out tonight to come to our meeting and for participating. My name is Vicki Fedor. I'm a dental hygienist, and I am actually happy and privileged to be working as a consultant for Fraudlens. You're going to ask me who and what is Fraudlens? Well, it's a company that has a near to real-time healthcare fraud, waste, and abuse detection and prevention software. And my bosses are here tonight, Dr. Frank Din and Dr. Todd Pollock. I'm very honored that they're here tonight. So I hope they'll come in and say some words whenever they feel necessary to do that. I really enjoy working for Fraudlens because the company's approach to this atrocious problem that's out there. They do not muscle arm the providers. They try to change their behavior. And how they do that is by doing low volume dollar amounts and high volume with low dollar amounts. So what they do is we kind of nudge a provider saying, hey, something's not right here. You may want to change that. And, I would hope for the most part, most people will change it because, like Patty said in the beginning, oh, we've done it this way for years and we never got caught. Well, guess what? You're again. They get caught now. How do we do it? Patty, the next slide. is an algorithm. So what is an algorithm? It's a set of rules for the computer to follow to achieve a particular goal. I was amazed at how accurate and fast these algorithms are. Sandy Rago is also one of my partners that works with me for Fraud Lens. Sandy, how did you feel when you first saw all these algorithms and how fast and accurate they were?
Completely amazed, just amazed that Dr. Din and Dr. Pollack were able to come up with a way to find the problems that are out there.
It's such an honor to be aboard on this. Patty, you could put the next slide up. So these problems are big, and I'm sure everyone here has had some taste of how big it is, but healthcare fraud is estimated at 10 to 30% of all costs, and it is a $280 billion of a $2.8 trillion spent in 2012. It's so weird, Patty, because when you were talking before about one of our attendees who has a lot of Medicare information, one of the things that I looked up was the Department of Health and Human Services Office of the Attorney Inspector in 2018 participated in the largest healthcare fraud in June of last year, and it was $2 billion loss to Medicaid and Medicare. So you could see that there is such a need for us to have this kind of software and this kind of company around to change people's habits in a non-threatening manner. So the other thing that Patty had before, which is very interesting, is when I was doing some more research, I had the ADA manual that was stating, it's called Protecting Your Dental Practice from Fraud and Embezzlement. I don't know if anyone's ever seen it. Has anybody seen it before? Anybody?
You know, I don't even know if I've seen that one.
It is a very lengthy and long manual, and it talks all about fraud and embezzlement. And some of the examples they were giving was exactly what you were saying, Patty. Billing for services not rendered, misrepresenting dates of service, which reminds me of one of the stories I had when I was a dental hygienist that worked in a very busy office. And I had a college kid. His mom called up and said, "Hey, can you take my son in to get his teeth cleaned?" And we're like, "Of course, what time of day is good for you?" and blah, blah, blah. And the girl looks up on the computer and notices that his insurance is the 6 months to 1 day, but this was only 6 months. So she proceeds to tell the mom, it's not quite 6 months. It's not going to be covered. Oh, can't you just change the date? He leaves the next day for college. And I could see the poor girl at the desk was mortified. She didn't know what to do. She knew that she wanted to please the patient, and she wanted to please her employer, because what would happen if she said, "No, I can't do that"? The patient is going to get mad, and he's not going to get his teeth cleaned for another 6 months, or he might go somewhere that would take him. So she scheduled them. So I do not know what happened to that insurance claim form, but I'm assuming there was misrepresentation of the dates of service. So it is out there every day, and I really do understand how those girls at the front desk or the administrative staff is really put in a quandary when they're faced with that kind of situation. There's also waiving of copays and upcoding and downcoding, Patty. That was funny you brought that up. For example, when I worked in another practice as a manager, they were billing out for high noble crowns when the crowns were really only noble crowns. So it's definitely out there. The thing that's really cool about Fraudlens is they can use these algorithms based upon different things such as time, procedure, and impossible. So what I'd like to do is possibly put up the next slide and show you some examples. So what you see here is an example of an impossible algorithm. And if you look at these codes, you can see that one is a removal of an impacted tooth, number 32, partial bony, and one was an extraction of an erupted tooth, that's tooth number 5. Well, what we notice is 32 is what, age 12? I don't think that's going to happen there. Okay, I don't think your tooth is quite through yet at 12 years old. So this wonderful claim has been denied based upon what we found here, which the age is impossible for you to extract that number 32. Are there any questions that you see about this so far, or any response to what I'm talking about?
How's the chat box doing, guys?
I just had a question about the
device connected.
I just had a question about the book that, or the I believe you said it was a book, Vicki, the Protecting Your Office from Fraud and Mismanagement publication by ADA. That was asked about. Other than that, nothing in the chat box.
I see something here, but it's about the 4-3. It's Beth. Beth, what do you have? What are you saying here? Another comment.
I'm talking about how some offices. Hi. I was talking about how some offices charge for 4 quads, and even though 4 quads are done on the same day, but a lot of plans only pay for 2 quads on one day, but they put 2 different dates down.
Yep.
So they're fraudulently changing the name. Is that what you're changing the date?
Yep. That's what was happening at an office where I worked, and I don't work there anymore.
Hattie, this is Connie. I have a question. So I know that 12 years old seems, completely impossible that they would have a partially bony extraction. What if that indeed is the case? They can come back then and provide. I've had cases, 12 and 13-year-olds, where we've taken out impacted wisdom teeth because it's keeping your molar from erupting. So what happens in that case, Vicki?
Fortunately, what happens is it's a very awesome process. We give them this thing and they get an email. So when the email comes back, we can sometimes sit and have a meeting with them, and then if the doctor says, hey, this is what it is, I have those rare occasion for it, here's some pictures, here is the proof, and then we'll definitely obtain it back. We'll definitely reverse it. So there isn't, like I said, there's not a lot of muscle and arming. They do try to give the provider the benefit of the doubt, because there are times where there are those odd times. Definitely.
But can I ask a question before we get to Teresa's question in the chat box?
Okay.
This software and this program is different than what the traditional way, because it's not like there's never been any way that insurance carriers or third-party benefit carriers have found fraud in the past. But it was usually, I think it's called the pay and chase, whereas this finds it earlier. Can you explain that part, Vicki? And if not, then we'll have Frank jump in and explain that.
I bet you Dr. Din can explain that probably a little bit better than I.
Okay, Frank, explain it.
You're doing fine, Vicki. So I don't want to interrupt. Right. Basically, what they're referring to is generally speaking, with fraud, waste, and abuse now.
Excuse me a second. Can everybody else mute their microphone? Well, so we can hear. Okay, go ahead, doctor.
All right. The current process is basically to pay these claims out, and anything that they find after the fact where they have people looking at it, either dental consultants or even sometimes their software, where they review it, they find it many months or even sometimes years after it's actually happened. So what they essentially do is now they say, that perio scaling and root plane that you did a year ago, that's bad. We want our money back. And there's all kinds of problems settled with that because it's a year ago, number one. And number two, the money's been spent. Number three, the provider probably doesn't even remember any of these things. And it involves a whole process whereby you have to actually go and try to gather all the evidence and then prove your point. So on both sides, each side can get very upset about this whole process. What this software does now is that as the claim first comes in, it's processed against all these algorithms, and these algorithms are built specifically to detect certain types of fraud. Right, we all know about the 4 quadrants of perio scaling and root plane when they should not be covered that way. Right, we all know about crown buildups. We all know about excess X-rays every 6 months and so on. Right, we all know those typical patterns, and essentially what the algorithm does is it's designed to actually look for somebody doing that pattern, and if it finds it, we flag it and let them know that they're doing something wrong. We don't ever accuse them, but essentially it just says you submitted a claim for bite wing X-rays. There's something wrong with this claim, and the reason why there's something wrong with this claim is there's no evidence that this person has active caries, right? And so the algorithm looks for an awful lot of things that we can deduce from the claims, as in there's been no history of caries on this patient for the past 3 years, and all of a sudden you want to take X-rays every 6 months. That doesn't make any sense to us, doctor. And to Vicky's point, when we send that to them, we send it the day after they send in the claim. So there's no waiting for any of these things to muster and to brew, right? They send in the claim. The next day, we send them a note that says, doctor, that claim you sent in yesterday, there's a problem with it. You have to do something about it, and until we do something about it, we're going to hold off payment. Now, their option is to accept what we're doing, and all we do is we say, just resubmit it, doctor. Just fix it, resubmit it. Or they can implement the typical kind of appeals process that you have. Pick up the phone and call somebody. And to Vicky's point, generally speaking, if they do that, if they have a legitimate explanation, this is that one child that actually has third molar buds growing at age 12. I can show you the X-ray. All they do is say that to us and say, thank you very much, we're going to reverse it. That's not a problem. Because our goal is not to punish. Our goal is to make sure they understand that this is what we're watching for. So that the next time something comes along where they're trying to extract a third molar on a 12-year-old, they're going to think to themselves, I either have to have this evidence as part of the claim because I know they're looking for it, and we tell them we're watching them, or if it is truly a fraudulent effort on their part, they're going to have to turn around and say, they're watching me for this, and if I don't have the evidence, I better not submit it because there's no way for me to explain it. So that's the general high level understanding of what makes what we're doing a bit different. And like I said, I'm very encouraged to hear that so many of you on this call are actually working with us and actually understand what's going on. All right. And the secondary process for you to also understand before I turn it back over to Vicki is the secondary part about all this is to get doctors to behave better, to get them to actually not only just code better, but treat better, because there's a lot of patient harm involved with overtaking X-rays. Most of the time, doctors don't see it, but one of the things we make sure we mention to them is saying, if you are doing these X-rays every 6 months, doctor, you are exposing these people to radiation that they shouldn't be exposed to. And every guideline, and we show them the guideline, says you do not take these X-rays unless they're absolutely necessary. So our secondary goal in all this stuff is to improve the overall care. Much to Patty's point, we want them to practice exactly what they have to practice, do exactly what they have to do, but no more, no less, right? We want them to behave themselves so that ultimately everything you do is squeaky clean. There's no question that if you needed that X-ray, if you took that X-ray was necessary. They got hit, they got into a car accident, they need that X-ray, not because they get paid every 6 months. So.
And that really goes to the other part that I was talking about with having the improvement in our system where it becomes outcomes based. When we have all of these things that have been coded that are really not appropriately coded, we don't have good information to really even make suppositions about where we are with healthcare. Teresa, did that answer your question, Teresa Shepard, about a software check to clean the claim versus an audit? It's not either one, is it? Teresa?
Yes, that answered my question to a greater degree. I'm still just a little bit lost on.
Yeah, it's a little bit strange. As Vicky and Sandy and Patty will tell you, it takes a little while to brew in your mind. But once you get a chance to think about it a little bit, everything starts to fall into place. And I think Vicky will agree. As you think about it and get more exposed to it, it all kind of fits into place, and it all starts making a great deal of sense.
Right, and I love the concept. I mean, I teach risk management. I teach this topic, and I've never seen anything like that, and so I find that very fascinating, and I definitely want to learn more about it.
Woohoo!
Yeah. Now this is so okay. Do we want to keep going here? You have another slide here, Vicky. You want to talk about?
Yes.
Okay, let's move on to the next one, and then we're going to open it up to more questions and opportunity for you to share some of your own stories.
Yep.
To move. There you go.
All right. So as you can see, Dr. Din was talking about x-rays, and now I have this wonderful example here of a periodic evaluation and 2 bite wings. And the bite wings were denied. And I don't know if any of you have ever had the opportunity to work with insurance forms, and I did a lot of admin work when I was a manager, but this happens all the time. And sometimes the office just goes, oh, well, it's denied, and that's just the way it is. And sometimes the patients call up and go, why was it denied? So in this case, you could see the algorithm examined the clinical necessity of bite wings for children. And I know that the pedo office that I worked in, they did it every 6 months, whether the child needed it or not. And we all know the risk. They need to have that risk carries risk analysis in order to prove that that's the reason that that child should have those x-rays every 6 months. So, I'm just so thrilled that, I've been working in the field for 40 years and I've seen all this abuse, fraud, and waste. And now I feel like there's hope now that those people who continually do it will somehow now learn that, they can't keep doing it because they're going to get caught. We want you to just change your behavior and be the ethical doctor that you're supposed to be. You will make enough money if you do it right. So, so that's how that procedure algorithm goes.
So can I ask a question? Will this be an individual carrier that has this service, and an office won't necessarily know who has it or who doesn't have it until they might get a call, right? Because this is a service that a carrier would purchase or contract with for fraudulence, right?
Yeah,
correct.
This is Frank. That is correct. If you're an honest dentist and you've done everything that according to the guidelines and so on, they will never even know we exist. Right? They won't hear from us. They won't get any messages from us. It's only if they've violated the guidelines that have been set out by the ADA and the periodontal associations, whatever it is, because that's what we use. We're not just making this stuff out of the air, but it's clear that the guideline was written and it says this is when it's appropriate, this is when it's inappropriate, and that's essentially what we do. And then we just make sure that our algorithm can detect those type of things, right? And so if they're doing something wrong, they get a notice. And when they do get the notice, again, the notice is never a demand for payment. All it says is there's been a problem with the claim, so we can't pay it for you to right now, doctor. Either take a look at it, and we usually say it's probably just a clerical error. If it's a clerical error, just fix it and send it. But we also send them the reason why we deny it. So the reason why we deny it is, when we did the carries risk assessment, we find this person at very low risk. Why are you taking it every 6 months? Every 6 months.
So in that regard, then, is your software and your program is not looking for whether it's within the parameters of a policy, rather it's within the parameters of what is good practice.
That is correct. You're absolutely correct.
I think that's a clarification that's really important for everybody here to understand, is there is a difference between what a policy may allow versus what is good practice. And we sometimes get those really mixed up. So what this is about improving practice, not just improving. And Linda Jorgensen, you have 3 good points in there. So why don't you make them out loud, girlfriend?
Oh, you noticed.
I did.
Yes, I did.
What I got out of that, the last 10 minutes was, don't be dishonest about what you're doing. Don't violate the trust that's placed in the entire profession, because it makes all of us look bad when you do that. And it's a public trust. We're violating the public trust when we, like fudge that kind of stuff. And then the third point, and maybe we would elevate the third point to the first point, we're trying to improve the quality of patient care, which I really appreciate the doctor saying that. So anyway.
Thank you.
Thank you. I couldn't have stated it better, and thank you very much.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to flip to the next slide if you're okay with this. What we want to do is we want to open up the thing here for discussion. And there's somebody that wrote something in the chat box that I want to go to the next slide first and say, first of all, this is a safe place. Okay, this mastermind is a safe place for you to discuss whatever it is that we want to talk about here. So if you're comfortable, we have to talk about this. Suzanne, can you want to share what you're writing and what you're saying? Because I think it's really important for us to discuss and think about.
Yeah, sure. I'm a direct access dental hygienist here in Colorado, and I just was writing on my chat that it scares the bejesus out of me because I own my own practice, I run my own practice, and I have to really, really make sure that I'm doing due diligence when I'm doing this. And I just want to, it just makes me scared because I want to make sure that I'm doing things right.
I'm sorry. I'm scared that you're going to get caught. Is that it? That you're going to have to face these type of allegations, or scared from the standpoint of this is extra work that you didn't think you had to do?
No, I've got a staff of about 10, and so we are always making sure that we're doing things ethically. Mm-hmm. But I just want to make sure that I'm doing everything on my part to make sure that I'm doing things right. Yeah.
Understood. Yeah, and again, sometimes it sounds more ominous than it really is. But if you're practicing according to the guidelines that have been stated out there, much like again the X-rays that we use. I mean, if you have low carriage risk patient, you should not be taking bite wings every 6 months, right? Especially on children, right? There's no reason for you to do those type of things, and especially if you're following those guidelines, right? I mean, you're gonna get there, because again, when you do it 6 months and our algorithm looks at it, there's very specific criteria that laid out. In fact, Todd, I don't know if you would like to jump in here, please, because you're the one that built this algorithm. This is your baby, whereby the Pedodontic Association has a very specific set of criteria that says, if we see this, we can call this high risk. If we see this is medium risk. This is low risk, right? And at the low risk, it's almost impossible to justify taking X-rays on a routine basis, all right, or even on a frequent basis. Forget routine, just a frequent basis. That ultimately that's there for the patient's protection, and it's the proper guideline. So again, you as a practitioner, as an ethical practitioner, clearly you have that in the back of your mind as you're doing these things. Now there may be some minor differences. You decide, well, is this straddle between low and medium, or this is that one case whereby this is the case that we have to deal with it. In our instance, when you get the alert, you just say, look, here's the issue that we encountered, and we just say, that's fine, doctor, or excuse me, your hygienist, but that's fine. We're going to reverse it for you, right? Because as Vicki and Sandy know, our goal is not to punish you guys. Our goal is just to make sure that you're following the procedure, and that everything that you do, you can justify, right? So the extraction example that I gave you, right? If this is a person that actually has a third molar bud that's a half or 2/3 of the way growing in at age 12, that's that one exception in a million, right? If you can prove that, there's no problem with it. We'll just reverse it, doctor. Thank you very much. And it takes minutes, not days. You just turn around and call us up and saying, here's my evidence, much like you're doing a go-to meeting, right? And you can just say, look, here's my X-ray. Take a look at it. Thank you very much, doctor. We're going to reverse it. So Todd, I don't know if you'd like to jump in just a little bit there on that. Todd? Oh, I guess he's on mute. Anyway,
one point I'd like to make, Dr. Din, this is Sandy, is that if this is documented properly, a
It just
lot of
flies through.
problems won't
Yeah.
occur.
Exactly. Right? Because one
Because,
of the
for
things we do,
example, if they were also using, say, the Carey's risk assessment codes, actually coding the risk, is that built into the algorithm that shows something, or we're going on that one?
yeah, and it's not even that complicated. I mean, essentially, we're looking for them to put in the remarks. Like one of the things that is advocated if you attend many of these type of proper coding sessions, one of the things that they'll routinely say is that if you got some anomaly, you document it, right? Put it in the claim, the remarks section. And so every one of our algorithms looks for something in that remarks section, and it could be a flat out lie. But if we see an explanation in the remarks section and it's halfway reasonable, we usually say that's fine. All right, the computer software says, look, I see a whole thing here in the remarks section. Remarks section says something about the third molar is already growing. We let it through, right? So again, that's part of the way the software works. If we can miss a few things, absolutely, but that's why our appeal process, our dispute resolution process is so easy. At least we try to make it as easy as possible. We arrange one of these meetings just like we're doing right now, and if you have your evidence, put it, just show me on your camera, or if it's on a computer thing, just share your screen with me. Let me take a look at this. And again, if the x-ray shows the bud on the third molar, thank you very much, doctor. We're going to reverse it for you. Anything else we can do for you?
And anybody that's heard me teach when I teach about coding, I'm talking about that there should be something almost in that remarks box every time a claim goes out. Why? What should be in there? The medical necessity. Why are we doing what we're doing? I mean, and it's really basic documentation that often doesn't get from our charts into anything in the benefits world. And it's the thinking about that as much as possible. So we have another question in our chat box. Tracy, go ahead, Tracy.
Hey, it's Tracy Martin in Virginia. I work at a heavily Medicaid practice, and I just wonder if you guys have approached the government to see if you can get a handle on the Medicaid fraud that's happening in this country, because it's rampant.
The short answer is yes. The longer answer is until you try to work with the government, you have no idea. It is the most crazy maze of different pathways and different responsibilities you can possibly imagine. And just to give you a brief story, we actually had the chief medical officer of CMS in charge of data analytics. So this is as high as you get at CMS.
Right.
And he saw our stuff. He saw our software, and he says, I really like this. He goes, I want this. All right. In the next year, over the next year, we went to see maybe 30 different other people because of the way they structure their approach. And we got lost in the maze, and it got to one of those, those voicemail hails, right? They refer you to one department, and the second department refers you to the third department. Third department brings you back to the first department, and you've just done a big circle. Right? We got caught in some of those big, huge circles, and it just got to the point where we were getting absolutely nowhere, and suddenly the administration changes because of the election, and we lost our one champion, the guy who sits there and says, we can save so much money in Medicaid if we start doing this.
Right.
Okay. And so that's the longer story. We're with you, sister, all right, on this one, and we try, but again, dealing with the government is very hard. It's understandable why corruption works, because trying to do it legitimately is almost impossible.
The right way is always the hard way. That's
it's
for
always
sure.
the hard way. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I always say too, somebody said it earlier. Somebody said that if you do the right thing, the money will come.
Yep.
Yeah, Vicki said
that's my mantra.
Yep. And Kelly, did you want to say something?
Really, I just have how many carriers use your software?
Nobody's currently using it on a live basis. That's where we can respond to it immediately. We have 2 that are in implementation, but once again, everything works fairly quickly if you're on Facebook, but when you're dealing with big companies and governments and so on, you you just realize that if you think it's going to take a month, just quadruple it, right? And then you're closer to what's actually going to happen, and that literally is what's going on. So we've actually had the agreement in place for one of these, and it's a Medicaid provider. For 6 months, we've had them say, we want this, and we still haven't gotten to the point where we can actually turn on the switch and make it go live. We have a number of them that have actually done the historical analysis, which is always our first step. What we do is we look back over 3 years and we said, if you had this in place 3 years ago, this is what you missed. Right, so they can actually see how much money they've lost over that time period and what they can expect moving forward. And on those, we have about, I think we have about 15 of those in the various companies, all the way from the very smallest to the very largest insurers out there. Right, and it just, again, it just takes forever to get these guys moving because of momentum. It's not a simple process, and there are multiple sign-offs and so on.
If I can throw something out there too, Frank and I, our paths have crossed, and they keep recrossing, don't they? Anyway, with working on a book for way back when, and then we were at the National Association of Dental Plans. Now, the National Association of Dental Plans is one of the big organizations where multiple carriers are. And when I went to my first day, that was a new member day, and people there were like, I've been doing this for 35 years. I've been doing this for 45 years. Now, I'm certainly somebody that's been doing something for a long time, but what I find the industry is pretty stodgy. How's that for a word? That they don't make quick decisions. They don't make fast. It takes a long time. This is where sometimes too, when those of you that have gotten involved with the coding committee in the last couple of years, it can feel like, oh, we had our 6 things that we submitted and they went nowhere the first year. That's normal. Okay, that's W1L. You keep going back, and it's negotiations. It's politics, guys, and that's the reality of this stuff. One of the things, and Frank, I don't know if I'm going to put you on the spot on this one, but Frank also did, Dr. Din. By the way, Dr. Din is a dentist too. He knows what we're talking about because he is one of us. Anyway, when he did a presentation at that NADP meeting, and one of the things that's interesting about the whole idea of this technology and the power of it is because of how things come in patterns. Can you talk a little bit about the patterns way of understanding the world, Frank?
Surely, if you have the time, yeah. When you study, one of the key features of what we do is the three major components that nobody's ever put together before. The first one is called clinical knowledge. I mean, you have to understand the domain, what the doctors do, right? What is actually going on with the scaling and root plane, and why are you doing it? That's a clinical knowledge piece that all of us have. All right, the second piece is informatics. And informatics, in the briefest description, is understanding that data is more than just data. So most of the people look at things like they look at a code, right, the D2150, and you look at a D2150 and say, I know I did a two-service filling, and they stop there. But in actuality, the data tells you a lot more than you think it does. And the example that I give is we can actually determine whether or not that there's been some fraud, waste, or abuse based off of how much anesthesia is given to a patient. Now, you all know that there's no anesthesia code for anything, right? You do a filling, you give an anesthesia, you just record the filling code. But we also know as a dentist, you're not taking a hand-speed handpiece to a live tooth without anesthesia. Right, and we know where the anesthesia is given. We know the difference between blocks, and we know the difference between infiltrations and so on. We also know that endo usually requires more and so on. Right, we take all those things into account, and when we look at a claim and we see that the doctor did 15 different things, essentially what the algorithm does is it looks at each of those 15 different things and says, well, this will require an infiltration. This infiltration will cover these 2 teeth. This is a block, and that'll cover these 3 teeth, and so on. And so we add all that stuff up, and we know how much anesthesia had to be given to the patient. Then we also know that every manufacturer puts out a chart that says, this is your toxic dose, right? Do not exceed this dose for this patient, and it's always based on patient's age and patient weight. We also have those charts from the Pediatrics Association that says the average patient is X, Y, and Z, plus or minus, 2 standard deviations, gives you an extra 5 or 10 pounds, whatever it is. So we have all that information, and all that information gets built into the algorithm so that we can actually turn around and say, doctor, you did 15 fillings on that patient who's 5 years old. I said, if you did those 5 fillings all in one sitting, you had to give them 5 carpules of anesthesia, according to the charts for the toxic dose. That at that age, that 3 carpules is a toxic dose. So clearly something wrong. You should reinvestigate or check out your claim again. Maybe you put down stuff, you confused too many people, you put too many things down in there. Just fix the claim. But essentially what we're pointing out to them is saying, if you did everything that you said you did, you had to give the patient 5 carpules of anesthesia, which is clearly a toxic dose. And again, so the notion is that we caught you, doctor. You don't want to admit to malpractice. You don't want to admit to purposely giving the patient too much anesthesia. We're saying that it's probably the claim thing. Go back and fix your claim, right? You didn't do 15 fillings that day. You did 5, and somehow things got changed around. But that's the notion that we want to put in their brains, and it's more for the future, because the next time they want to do 15 fillings, we got that, right? So that's the second piece. That's the informatics piece. The third piece, which is what Patty's referring to, is the forensics. And what you learn in forensics is that almost all criminal activity, it gets involved with patterns. First of all, patterns are common to human nature. So your brain is wired to see patterns. And to Patty's point, one of the first slides we show up is this black and white silhouette of a spider and an ant. And all I do is ask the audience and saying, can you tell me what this is? Okay, and everybody knows instantly that's a spider, that's an ant. There's no other information other than that black and white photograph. And I also asked them, I said, can you tell me where you find these things? And they'll say, yeah, you find them in the dirt, the ants. Right? So you know all that information, and that's all part of that pattern recognition. And so we take advantage of that. We take advantage of that from the standpoint of when we do our software to make it easier for you to understand. And more importantly, we know that when a doctor does something, once he does it, he figures out that it's worked. He doesn't try to create it new again. So if he's cheating you out of x-rays, he doesn't find a new way to cheat you out of x-rays every time. Once he's done it and he's done it successfully, he's just going to keep repeating it, right? So that's why when you see these criminal shows, right, there's always that guy who sits there and says his pattern is he likes to go after women, between the ages of 15 and 25, right? Or this guy always hangs around coffee houses, right? Because that's the way humans are wired. Humans are wired to do things in patterns and recognize patterns. And so once we understand that, it makes life a lot easier for us to detect, because we know that once he's got it, he's going to keep repeating that pattern, and we're going to be able to see it in the data, right? If all these 5-year-olds are getting all these x-rays, there's that pattern. If we know he's doing it, we can build something to detect it. Right, and that's what makes it so powerful. That's what makes us able to do things that they haven't done, because up till now, nobody has taken advantage of those 3 pieces and saying we can put those all together to help you stop this. Right?
It's fascinating. It's beyond fascinating, and it's where we are in the world at this point. Thank you, Frank, for I'm really glad that you came on, and Kevin, if you're there too, I thank you. And particularly thank you to Vicki. And anybody have any other questions or clarifications? If you didn't put your information in the chat box, we will have one of the courses in my Dental Insurance Navigator will be specifically on fraud, but all of it is to really learn how to do the coding and how the insurance world works, because my belief is an awful lot of fraud is, and that's really the basis of this technology too, is by accident. It isn't, there is other ones that are intentional, certainly, but a lot of it we just don't know, and we don't know that we don't know. So any further comments, anybody? All right, again, I want to remind you that next month's Mastermind is on the 19th. This one too, if you want to hear this again, the insiders, we now have these recorded, and the insiders can watch them again if you want. I also want to wish all of you a very happy Valentine's Day, if I get the slide to change here. Happy Valentine's Day, whatever that means to you. And if there's anything that you need, you know how to get a hold of me, text, email, Facebook, Instant Messenger, lots of different ways. So thank you. We have a tagline for dental codology now, that we're charting our future. We are creating the future with what we do, how we think. And I know that we're all up to it. So thank you very, very much, everybody. Good night.
Good night.
Thanks, Patty.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.